Before I begin, big disclaimer. I am not a professional. I'm not even an amateur. I'm honestly just trying to get more than like 13 views on a video. These are strictly my opinions, nothing more, nothing less. My word is not law. Secondly, spoilers ahead of whatever the heck I'm working on for this video. Nothing I hate more than getting a game spoiled for me, so I'd hate to do it to you. Cheers. For those of us who are long-term fans of the Assassin's Creed franchise, we all struggle with one question. When did this franchise change? This question can be perceived as both positive and negative, but the franchise has been set up to have endless possibilities, and we're still going on even today, 15 years later. I, like a lot of people, watched the Ubisoft Forward event and still ask myself this very same question. The Assassin's Creed Mirage trailer did exactly what Ubisoft always does for me. It got me sucked in. I immediately saw smoke bombs, throwing knives, and social stealth, and just like that, I was back in 2008 watching trailers for Assassin's Creed 2, losing my mind. But then the dust settles, and I remember that Odyssey exists, and Valhalla also promised social stealth too, and now I'm skeptical again. I found myself asking the same question once again. When did this franchise change? And I mean truly change. There have been different places and mechanics along the way, but which game was the tipping point to become what it is today? I used to think it was Black Flag's success that turned the game away from its roots, but although that is true to a certain extent, I don't think it shied too far away to make that much of an impact. Besides, Black Flag is an amazing Assassin's Creed game. Even though it splits the middle between pirate and assassin, it does so in such a manner that it just works, and it did really, really well for both fans and the franchise. I then think, well, maybe it was Syndicate that was the change. Syndicate is at the bottom of my list of Assassin's Creed games, and yet, at least it was still at its core an Assassin's Creed game. Then I thought, maybe it's more of an intellectual approach. I'll take that intellectual approach and look at it differently. And maybe Unity's failure at launch and having all these bugs and the subpar story, maybe that was what did it. Maybe it was all the way back in Unity. But then I remembered I'm not much of an intellectual and came to my own conclusion. Maybe it's not that complex at all. Maybe it really is what everyone says it is. Most recently, I've looked at the obvious change that everyone talks about, Assassin's Creed Origins. This is the first title to shy away from the third-person linear action game that Assassin's Creed once was and always was, and is now the hitbox-style combat RPG with like some stealth elements sprinkled in. This game confuses the crap out of me. It took away social stealth, added crazy RPG elements, and changed the entire direction of the franchise for the same reasons that I talk smack about Odyssey and Valhalla, and yet I still enjoy it quite a bit. On one hand, if people say, oh, Origins ruined Assassin's Creed, or Assassin's Creed isn't an RPG for a reason, get your own game, I kind of get it. I also understand that. As I watched the trailer for Mirage, I got incredibly excited. I myself miss the original style and the storytelling that was much better in the older games, in my opinion, of course. And miss it being about the assassins and the brotherhood and the creed that they serve. I take a look at Origins and think it has nothing but potential. When I play it, I almost feel like I'm in this relationship with Assassin's Creed and I'm making a compromise to keep that relationship going. I think to myself, is this what I wanted? No. But yet the story was good enough for me to keep me on board and allow me to continue on with the series, even after that. But then, of course, here comes Ubisoft. They took the praise that Origins had from its new fans of the RPG elements and decided it was the only direction that they needed to go. This is why Odyssey drives me absolutely crazy. It was nowhere near an Assassin's Creed game, and yet it was nominated for Game of the Year upon its release. I find it difficult to talk to the new fans of the series. Don't get me wrong, you're allowed to like whatever you want, but I can't help but be saddened by that result. I feel as if I almost want to say, look, if you want an RPG, go play an RPG. The Witcher's a great game. Go for it. But then I turn right around and be a little hypocritical and I back up Origins all the time. Odyssey to me was garbage, and not because it's a bad game, but because it has the Assassin's Creed label on it. I can't get into it, and it just drives me crazy. And then Darby McDevitt did his best on Valhalla, but I could easily live in a world without either of those games. But for some reason, I compromise, and Origin fits in just fine. Origins was the end of the old formula, and I was somewhat okay with that at the time. I could still play the game with some stealth, and I actually really loved Bayek as the founder of the Assassins, or the Hidden Ones in his time. But it failed where Ubisoft seems to fail time and time and time again with these decently good ideas. It doesn't take the risk to continue its own story in sequels. I believe the change in this franchise wasn't the beginning of Origins or even Origins itself. It was at the end of Origins, or even at the end of the Hidden Ones DLC. This DLC proved that Bayek and Aya had a shot at a sequel to expand their creation, and they could have mixed the formula in with the old and the new. I would have loved to see Bayek develop the Hidden Ones into what is eventually the Creed of Assassins that we see with the Levantine Assassins in Assassin's Creed 1. I would have been okay with some of those RPG elements staying, but just, tweak a few things. Have a better parkour system other than just pressing A or X or whatever and climbing whatever surface is in front of you. You can keep the hitbox style combat even, that's fine. Just don't let enemies have these crazy health bars and feel like sponges when you attack them and need millions upon millions of XP in order for me to face them. Bring back the social stealth and have it be learned throughout the building of the Creed and be step by step throughout the game. I've realized that the Assassin's Creed franchise changed when we gave in to the new fan base. Don't get me wrong, I don't like blaming fans for bad games. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I actually put the blame on Ubisoft for thinking they just need to make this Witcher clone for the rest of this franchise and completely abandon why these games were made in the first place and who they were made for. I've always believed that if you weren't a fan of the older games, then this franchise just wasn't for you. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't go around asking for Halo to be this third-person RPG and expect it to be now made that way. If something like that happened, I'd feel like the majority of the Halo community would just say, why not look at other games? Why is it any different for Assassin's Creed? The problem is, the idea that money needs to run the show has overplayed its hand in the case of this franchise. We went from hidden blades and running on rooftops, acting in the shadows, and being this cool assassin to now being this loud, bloodthirsty Viking and going on mythological adventures and fighting demons, and it just fell apart. The sad part is if you take the Assassin's Creed title away from Valhalla and take anything related to the series, it would be this badass Viking simulator. But yet you put Assassin's Creed on there and now you've taken away my lore, you've taken away my fan base. If you weren't a fan before, that's okay. And if you're a fan now, that's also okay. It's never a fan's fault for the game changing and being bad or good. I just believe that Ubisoft didn't really care about the story that they opened up with Origins, and instead they just made these huge maps and have a ton of side content and a large skill tree and XP hunting and just slapped the name Assassin's Creed on it, and that was good enough. Origins meets me right in the middle. It felt like that good compromise that I was willing to give into. And yet, that idea came and went. It did things that a lot of people didn't like, and I agree, it could have been better, but at the very least, it was about assassins and it was about building the Brotherhood. That was tossed aside for whatever the hell Odyssey was. To those that like the new RPGs, I'm glad. You don't feel this petty little pain and feud us old fans feel, and I kind of envy that. I feel like the old AC is dead, and I guess the torch can be passed on to the new fans, and I can either join or leave it as I please, and it shouldn't be this big of an argument. And yet, we're still here. This brings me back to the Mirage trailer. So many mixed emotion. It looks great. They're bringing back the old AC. Ooh, throwing knives. But years of microtransactions and abandoning the formula. But hey, social stealth. My brain will go back and forth all day long. Bottom line, I think Mirage will do exactly as presented. It'll give old fans exactly what they want, but it feels like the equivalent of giving a child ice cream for being good in the store today. It feels temporary. It just feels like they're doing it to shut up the old fans, and the sad part is it's kind of working. I feel like I want the old style bad enough that I'm going to buy the game. I'm going to play all 25 to 30 hours of it or whatever it is, and I'll probably enjoy it. Hell, if I'm still doing this YouTube thing, I'll definitely make a video about it. Either way, it's been 15 long years. Another franchise will come along eventually, and I might put my eggs in that basket. But for now, I'm both skeptical and optimistic. I'm right in the middle. I hope Mirage is exactly what we think it is, and all will be well. All we can do is question. Am I going to keep playing? For now, the answer is yes for me. For others, it's a big fat no, and I get that. I'd love to get people's opinions. I want to know where they're going with this franchise. Let me know. That's all for now. Cheers.